Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to the Next Level, conversations that propel business. This is your host, Bob Gibbons.
And I'm your other host, Stephen Nooner. And I'm excited to introduce our next level guest today. Bob Lilly Jr., founder of Bob Lilly Promotions, is here with us. They are one of the fastest growing promotional products industry companies. Bob also has, as a partner in Global Fulfillment Solutions, LLP, a shipping, warehousing, and fulfillment company based in Dallas. Bob Lilly Promotions was recently recognized by Inc. magazine as one of the 5,000 fastest growing privately held companies. They employ 25 people in Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. To learn more, please visit Bob Lilly, that's Lilly, promo.com. Welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Glad you're here with us today.
Glad to be here.
I warned you on the intro. Whenever Bob calls an audible.
It's all good.
Always trying to keep Stephen on his toes. Well, we like to start off with what we call wisdom of others. And today we're going to use a quote that actually you provided us, Bob. And I'm going to go with the one, you actually gave us two, Winston Churchill and Nelson Mandela. That's actually pretty hard to choose between those two guys, but we're going with Nelson Mandela. And he said, "I never lose. I win or I learn."
Amen.
So
love it.
Why do you like that quote so much?
Well, it's just it's simple, and I like to keep things simple. But I think it is the way that I've tried to approach my life and live my life, and you know, I think we carry around baggage of things that we may consider failures from the past. Could be personal, could be business, could be anything. And there's really no need to. If we just look at them as opportunities to learn, we don't have to carry around the baggage anymore. And we also don't have to dread the future, and we don't have to feel bad about the tough times. We can just glean from them what it is that we're supposed to learn and move on. So.
Super powerful. I went through a leadership training class one time, and they had us write out like the worst story that had happened to us in our lifetime, like history. And everyone wrote these stories down, and then they said, read it to your partner, and they'd read it, and people were crying, and it was just like just full of tears, and some of the stories were horrific. And then they finished and said, okay, now read it again. Same person. What? Read it again? Yeah, read it again. So they read it again. It was still a little bit sad. And they had them read it again and read it again. And by the fifth time, people that were like crying, they're laughing. And it was like, this is so ridiculous. I'm holding on to all this emotion around it instead of seeing it as just a learning, right? Just learning, taking what you can for the next obstacle you're going to face.
Sure. Well, and it seems like whenever you see where people go through the same thing, multiple people go through the exact same experience. I mean, the Holocaust, for example, to take an extreme example, you know, you have some people that come out of that totally devastated. They can't really function later, and some actually even died. Others thrived after they were rescued, and like Elie Wiesel, you know, he becomes an author. And it seems like in the end, it's really how people responded to that. You know, it wasn't something that they did; it wasn't their fault, but they learned from it and moved on. And so, anyway, it's a cool quote. I really like it.
Yeah, very simple. I like it a lot. Thanks for sharing it.
You bet.
So, before we get into your business and how you built it specifically, I know that, you know, one of the things just from a little bit of research that's really important to you is the American dream.
Absolutely.
And you know, talked about in your kind of pre-work for the show about why so many people don't pursue the American dream nowadays. Why do you think that is?
Well, that's a great question.
How do you define the?
Yeah,
Well,
how
I think the American dream to me is the opportunity to embrace a dream, have a dream, follow that dream, and see it become a reality. And in many countries, and I've had the ability to travel around, and by no means, a world traveler, but there are countries where the ability to change the status that you were born into is extremely difficult. Mm-hmm. And people don't even dare to dream that dream. And they become the cog in the wheel that they perceive as their destiny, or where they began is where they're going to end. And I just feel like we're blessed. We have the freedom to dream really big dreams, and we have the ability to work really hard. Kind of that come early, stay late. I'm going to will it and make it happen. Mm-hmm. We can still get that done here.
We can.
And in a way, I did that. I did a lot of things before starting this business, and each of them was an education in and of itself. But at the end of the day, it wasn't what I was meant to do, and it wasn't what I was passionate about. And at roughly 30 years old, it was almost a reinvention or a rediscovery of myself, as I was looking to, really sink my teeth into the thing that I would do, professionally for the rest of my life. And it happened by accident that I stumbled into this business, which I guess we'll talk about in a little bit. But again, I had the come early and stay late attitude, and I had big dreams, and it's been amazing that I've been able to, in a relatively short period of time, become successful in this industry, and with no prior knowledge of starting a business. And I really hadn't worked long in the industry, only 3 years that I ultimately started my business in. So to me, that's my own little story and my own little piece of the American dream. And
So tell us about that. So you're 3 years into this business in somebody else's company. Mm-hmm. What was it that told you, hey, I got to go do this on my own?
It's time. Well, to be fair, we did explore a partnership opportunity, mm-hmm. and that exploration stalled. And I think maybe it was a blessing in disguise. I love the people, and I'm still friends with them and respect them a great deal, and learned a lot from them. Learned things that I still utilize to this day. Some things that I do, and some things that I don't do, and that I try to remember how it made me feel when we did or did not have this service, or when we did or did not do a thing. I had a reaction to it. That reaction ultimately led to me starting my own business, and so those things are still poignant to me, and I try to make sure that I address and think through those types of things for my employees. But really, the desire was to do business the way I wanted to do business, and to be able to give my customers the service level that I wanted to be able to bring to them. I felt that technology was the way that I was going to be able to leverage that and get that done. And I'm a learner.
What year was this?
So this is back in 99 is when we actually formed the company, and it took me about a year to put the pieces together before I was ready to pull the plug and do it.
So what kind of technology are you referring to that you thought you could leverage?
Well, back in '99, in the
fax machine.
In the company, trust me, we lived and died by that fax machine, But I brought the first computer into that company, and I basically negotiated and kind of forced the hand of them getting a software package that would do research. And I mean, these are pretty basic things now. I mean, you fast forward 18 years, and we're all scratching our head going, how did you guys? I mean, we had 3-part forms that we were doing typewriters. We were joking about it in the office the other day. You want to know how we made changes to the system? Whiteout, and so 18 years ago, 19 years ago, the things that I was thinking about from a technology standpoint, we've laughed about today, but they were kind of big game changers for us back then. And so really, I think the point was just have state-of-the-art technology, always push the envelope on the technology. Maybe you don't have to be the bleeding edge early adopter, but be learning and be open to taking a few hits. I have spent and lost money, on CRMs, on software packages, on ERP implementations, and I've learned a lot of don'ts. So if any of you out there are having thoughts about doing any of those things, you feel free to call me. I'll tell you all the areas that you can mess up on. But anyway, I wanted to serve the customer, felt technology was the way to do it. And then also I, was at that time trying to start a family and thinking about family, and knew that as a son of a entrepreneur, my dad obviously played sports, but when he retired, he had a beverage distributorship, and I worked in that distributorship. So I saw at least a little inkling of entrepreneurialism and owning your own business. And I wanted the ability to be able to merge my work life and my family life in a way that suited me. So
how does that evolve? What services do you guys provide today, and who's your typical client?
Yeah, so while our typical client is really we have a mutual fund of clients. We like a diversity. Many years ago, we lost a major account in a specific sector, and it was about 25% of our business, and this is like year 3. And so at that point we said we're going to try our best to never do that again. We're going to be cognizant of that and try not to allow that to happen. And so we've done a pretty good job of that. I don't think now we don't have any customer that's more than 10% of our business, and we have some 7-figure customers, and we also try not to get too heavy into one sector. I like having more expertise and really understanding a sector, because then you can deliver a lot of value. But I also feel that the diversity helps us as a company, because if we lose an account, or if a sector suffers, like let's say oil and gas over the last several years, which we are pretty heavy into, and have a Houston satellite office, and we've felt some pains from that, but it hasn't been something that could really deal us a mortal blow. Some of the things that we do, we started the company as a promotional merchandise agency with an eye towards promotional products. That was in '99. Over the years, we've realized that our buyers buy many things. They wear many hats, and the more vertically integrated we could become, the better that we could serve them, and really help them be efficient as from a purchasing perspective. So it's print, it's print production, it's POS and POP, it's packaging, it is promotional products, it's premium items, and then it's also engagement platforms. So some of our offerings today include e-commerce company stores with branded merchandise, points-based reward and recognition programs. All of these are easy to kind of talk about, and they feel kind of siloed. We actually approach it more from a holistic point of view, and we're really trying to listen, figure out what the key business initiatives or issues are for our customer, and then how do we solve that? How do we help them solve that? How do we help choreograph a customized program that will give them a return on investment and really move the needle for them?
And what's the biggest challenge in getting into these companies? Because I noticed a lot of your companies, client companies, are really large. I think you said your ideal client had maybe like 900 employees or something.
Well, we work with Fortune 50 companies, and we work with small and medium-sized businesses as well. Some of the criteria that we look for are, first of all, our point of contact. Are we on the C level? If we're on the C level, then we can affect change and we can bring value pretty quickly. If we're in the marketing manager level, if we're in an HR manager level, then maybe it's a bigger company. Typically, we look for companies, if we're going to spend dollars on marketing and trying to solicit and get into a company, they're going to have a minimum of $100,000 annual spend across several of our verticals, and an opportunity for us to work with them in several verticals.
We're going to go to break. When we get back, how do you maintain healthy relationships when you work with family? Stick around.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: knowledge is power. We all negotiate from a position of power and strength, or at least we want to. In any negotiation, the party with the most knowledge probably has the upper hand, and landlords count on this. being the case whenever you're negotiating a lease, because most landlords are professional real estate investors and they hire professional leasing agents and property managers. Landlords are in the market every day negotiating leases, while tenants probably only negotiate one, maybe two leases every few years. So tenants feel outgunned. Don't let landlords have all the power. As a former landlord for 20 years, I understand how landlords think and what motivates them. So let me put that knowledge and experience to work on your side of the negotiation. To learn more, contact me at texastenantrep.com. Again, that's texastenantrep.com.
Have you started making plans to take your business to the next level in 2016? Hi, I'm Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali. We have a trademark process called the Empowered Advantage that enables CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs to more effectively buy and manage their insurance. Before sitting down to make your plans for the new year, here are just a few things to consider. Would you say that you have an actual insurance strategy, one that you can articulate, or have you just purchased a policy here and there over the years? If you have an insurance strategy, was it discussed under the pressure of a renewal deadline or considered earlier in the year to avoid fire drill decision making? If your answer was no to either of these questions, then you may not have the right partner on your team. Visit alkaliservices.com to contact us and take the next step to a bigger and better future.
Hi, I'm Sean Pickett, founder and CEO of Sales Integrity. I was referred to Bob and Steve in the Next Level show by a previous guest. So much for referral marketing.
Welcome back to The Next Level. We're here with our guest, Bob Lilly Jr., and he's with Bob Lilly Promotions, and you can find more about the company at boblillypromo.com.
2 L's.
2 L's. 3 L's, actually, if you depend on how you look at it.
Oh, you're so quick on your feet there, Mr. Gibbons. Hey, Bob. One of the things we hooked before we went to the break was I thought it was interesting. So you worked with your father. He was an entrepreneur, and you've built a business, and you involve your family in your business now. So I'm just curious of, obviously you had a good experience, and you've taken some things away and probably some things you don't. And I think it's common. I'd love to hear just the things you've learned from that.
Great. Well, so we'll talk first chronologically about me working for Dad. And he had a beverage distributorship in Waco, Texas in the 80s. And I started working for him when I was probably 12, 13, 14 years old. The jobs that I had afforded to me there were not in the management level. It was more in the janitorial area.
Can you imagine if they had been?
They shouldn't have been. But we actually... it was a pretty big operation, a lot of trucks, big warehouse. We actually had a recycling center as well. So I did actually clean the floors and sweep and mop and do all sorts of things. My uncle actually worked there as well. So I got to see the interaction between my dad and uncle and kind of how, challenges and the blessings that came along with that, because they were both. But I learned a lot of good lessons, and I really appreciated, watching my dad from the sidelines as he ran that business and the way he cared for his people. So those were the lessons that I learned there. It wasn't a prestigious job opportunity at the time. But fast forwarding to starting my business in 1999, my wife was working for some radio stations at the time, had a great job. We loved to talk about business. She was very supportive of my career and what I was doing. And I was bumping my head up against some operational issues and some things that I felt like maybe there is a better way to do this. And at some point, when the partnership looked like it was not going to happen, staying looked like it wasn't an option for me either. It wasn't. So as we began to do the business plan, she's a Northwestern graduate and has her MBA from Kellogg, and smart gal.
Yeah.
So we had some very spirited and meaningful conversations around business plans and lines of credit and what would it really look like. And so as we formed the logo and the name and the URL and kind of went through all those processes, I had a teammate. So that was very rewarding. Over the years, we've gone from 2 employees, which were us, to 3 to 5 to 7, up to 35, and now we're in the 25 range. And so we've grown, contracted, grown, and it's been a neat journey. Very rewarding, but very challenging at the same time. For us, I have a sales leadership role and have for a long time, and also president CEO, and she's the CFO. and we sometimes kid that she's the CF. No, and I come from the school of marketing and sales, and we got to spend a little bit of money to make a little bit of money, and she kind of comes from a very fiscally conservative viewpoint, and which I need and love and admire, but there is a checks and balances friction there, and so. You can't necessarily park that at the door at 5:30, or 6 or whatever time it is. For us, sometimes it's 9 p.m., But the reality is it's really hard to turn that off. And sometimes there are arguments that ensue. I want to hire a position. I want to take a leap of faith on a person or a role in our company that's going to be a substantial expense, and she's not seeing it, And I'm like, if we believe in where we're going, then we do this. We're having those kinds of conversations. And so it's pretty unique to a family scenario. If it was just a hired CFO, my stuff's getting done right now. I'm having to listen to a lot of feedback and dialogue, and with someone that I love and respect. So it's not easy. But like I said, I think the net of it all is that it's been a really wonderful ride, and we've enjoyed it more than we've not, but family is always going to be difficult. I'll throw one more caveat in there. I did hire a VP of sales several years ago, about 7 years ago now, 8 maybe, and we had a great ride together. He's no longer with the company. We may talk about that in a minute, but he. His wife was also an accomplished business person and had retired from a very large corporation, 15, 16 years experience there, and we hired her as a consultant for a particular job. We had a customer that was a very large national customer, and they had 3 brick and mortar stores that we were basically taking over, and we hadn't done that before. We needed a POS system. We hadn't done that before, and so she came in and really did a fantastic job. Well, after a little while, my VP of sales, and who became my friend, really talked me into, you need to hire her full time. And I thought that might be a mistake, in that there could be some ramifications, around having another couple, as it were, on the leadership team. Yeah. And it turned out to be true. And I'm a member of Vistage and EO, and we might talk a little more about that, which are a couple of professional groups. And I presented, that I was told every which way, but not to do that. And I did it, and I tried to do it. I tried to do it in a way, and create positions that there wasn't a lot of overlap, so that they wouldn't have the same kind of friction that we had. But there were other unintended consequences that kind of polarized certain aspects of our team, and created silos where I didn't want silos to exist, and I wanted open communication and those sorts of things. So 2 really great people, and had incredible skills, and both brought value to our company in their own way. Both are not with us anymore, and I really think that some of why they're not with us happens to be because they were family. And
so did they leave at the same time or separately?
Pretty close. Pretty close, yeah.
So you teased us a little bit with a story there.
Yeah. Well, so you guys had talked to me a little bit, prior about some of the challenges that I've had in my career, and as Nelson Mandela says, they're just opportunities to learn. One of the biggest challenges, and it's still a little bit fresh, is was my VP of sales leaving to take a national role at a competitor. I personally think it was absolutely the best thing he could do for him. I think it was the right job for his skill set, and but I was sad. I was sad about, losing somebody that valuable to the company, and I was also sad about losing a friend that I was able to confide in, on a daily basis. And we had some really nice successes over a 6-year period. So, with that said, that was a hug and a handshake and a well wish and goodbye. And then his wife rotated out of the company as well. I think, she was there from a large perspective for him, and so that was kind of the end of that. And then, unfortunately, because of his role in the new he was very close to a large number of my sales team, And so I actually had kind of a mass exodus about 6 or 8 months later.
So he stayed in this market. I mean, it was a national.
It's a national role, but he lives in the market, and he had created great relationships with these people. And at the end of the day, I don't fault people for having great relationships, and I think he was very meaningful in the lives in the business careers of some of these people. So I kind of get the fact that there was a mentorship going on there, but there's no real easy way or perfectly clean way to part ways and move on. I mean, in a perfect world, as far as I'm concerned, you tear the ticket on the perforated line, and you no longer have anything to do with these people because you're no longer their boss and you don't work with them anymore. Right. But that's not really how reality works. And at the end of the day, some people that I really wanted to stay left. And that was very painful, and I took it very personally. Some have been with me for as long as 15 years. But but the reality is, you feel bad. I acknowledged the feelings that I was having. Sure. I really contemplated it and tried to look at as many aspects of the entire debacle as I could, and see where I made mistakes. What could I learn from? What would I do differently if we went down a path like that again? And I learned a lot of great lessons. I learned the lesson that we're not doing family anymore. I learned the lesson that, there's certain aspects of HR that need to be adhered to much more stringently than our small organization had done in the past. And so we've had consultants in to talk about that. To protect us and to protect everybody, right? Sure. And then, you mourn the loss of friends and loved ones and people whose children you've watched grow up and have meant a lot to you personally and to the company, and then you move on and you realize that I'm responsible for the people that are in my bus, not the people that were on my bus. Right. And so, I started to focus on that. It was come early and stay late time again. It was crafting positive messages and being the leader that my team needed me to be. It was bringing in consultants to meet with our management team so that we could draft a very solid plan going forward so that we could then articulate that plan to the entire staff so that people would feel great about us and where we were going. Happy to report that we're more profitable than we were, in the last 3 years, even with a revenue that's slightly top line revenue that's a little bit down, profitability up considerably. So, so we hopefully turn those lemons into lemonade.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that. Congratulations on all the learnings and the positive results.
Thank you.
So one of the things we wanted to touch on, if we can, is the what to do. How would you 10x your company? What would you have to change to 10x your company right now?
We need a new CEO. No, there may be some truth to that.
Let the word out.
But we're not doing that right away. So, no, I feel, first of all, since losing that role within our company, I did replace the role. That was not the right hire. So we've moved that person out. I've taken back over the role of sales leadership, which I had for 9 years in the company, and we had double-digit growth every year. So it's not something that I'm totally unfamiliar with. It's just a little bit of a stretch to be strategic and forward-thinking, and kind of have your hand on the rudder, so to speak, and on the wheel at the same time. So I think for us to grow 10x, we would need some very talented, young, smart sales leadership. We would need to really articulate our plan for millennials. I want to onboard some young people. I really think that young people are going to be the lifeblood of where we're heading. And I want to create a career path in this industry that will bring excitement to the industry and excitement to those young people, and give them an actual career path that will give them options and room to grow.
We'll look forward to seeing that happen. Bob Lilly Jr., thank you so much for being with us today.
If you want to learn more about his company, go to boblillypromo.com.
And if you want to learn more about the show, please visit nextlevelshow.com.
We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.